Welcome to the Modernize or Die Podcast SoapBox Edition. In this podcast, we take you behind the scenes in the ColdFusion community. We'll talk to the leaders about what they're working on to push the language forward with tools, frameworks, modules, lessons learned, and best practices. Okay, so welcome to the first Modernize or Die SoapBox Edition podcast. How can we start without bringing Luis Majano, the creator, the founder, the one who started it all with ColdBox. So we're happy to have Luis Majano on here today with us.
Thank you, Gavin. You're such a great host.
Well, we'll see about that. But yeah, so obviously this new podcast, so this is one of two podcasts. So this is the SoapBox Edition. So we dive a little deeper, get a little preachier, really get into the nuts and bolts of why we're doing what we're doing, and we're hopefully going to cover a lot of best practices, lessons learned, find out more about the frameworks and stuff. But I just wanted you to share, why are we doing a podcast?
Yeah, we've had this idea for quite a while. We've just kind of never materialized it until now. But I think it comes down to our strategy of modernizing the language, right? We've always talked about, that the vendors can't do it. We basically as a community have to kind of stick together and showcase everything that we're doing. So this has been part of our plan for a while, and I think we finally had everything aligned in order for us to bring this to fruition. So I'm just really excited about it, that we can have our voices now being heard all over, talking about all the stuff that we're doing for ColdFusion and CFML, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, just personally, obviously, blog posts are great. Our conference is great. We get some webinars out there now and then, and but we've got more to say. Like, it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on in our team. Our team's grown so much that there's exactly. so much great stuff coming out of it that it's really hard to dive deeper. So for me personally, this is a way for me to keep up with what Ortus is doing, but also the community too. So yeah, I'm excited, obviously.
I mean, I think this is also a teaching resource. It's us to bring awareness, but also education.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so with that being said, obviously at the keynote we went into a little piece which I thought would be perfect for the first episode, which was sort of a call to arms, like why do we step up, why do we need to do what we're doing, and why is Ortus doing it, but also how the community can step up too. So you want to give us a little thought pattern, sort of why do we create that section, and then we can roll into that clip.
Yeah, I think this is all kind of stemmed from the since 2016, when we started this kind of movement of modernizing and bringing awareness of people of the language and the tools that are available to them. I think that's the number one failure right now, is that people are not aware that these tools exist, that these tools are even better than in other languages. So I think that the call to arms is definitely a big motivation. I mean, that's why we came up with that slogan in pure Latin flair, right? Modernize or die, basically, which is essentially true. It's something that people have to know, that if they do not modernize, from hardware to software, they eventually could get, hacked. They could get into a lot of trouble, and it's a reality, right? So that's why I wanted to bring that new motto into our focus areas, because it's so important and it's impactful, right? So that was a big one. And then the second one of our call to arms is that we're dealing with the legacy problem, right? And this happens because our language has been around for more than 20 years. Just like Java, PHP, Ruby is starting to see the effects of this now, right? Now people are saying that Ruby is dead as well, and PHP as well. There's just there's baggage, right? That's the reality. Yep. And there's a lot of successful companies that have grown and based their systems on all these languages. And then if they do not modify them, or they do not revamp them year after year, then it really gives any language a bad name. That's the reality. So I think that's what we're going as a community with ColdFusion and CFML, is that these legacy applications have not been taken seriously. And now some companies have definitely stepped up and taken the call to arms, and that's amazing to see. But it's important to know that these legacy issues are valid and they're here, right? And if they do not take them seriously, they could be in the potential to die, right? They put their companies at risk, they put their employees at risk, and their reputation at risk, right? Yeah. So that's a big deal for us.
Yeah, and obviously that's the other thing too. We're talking about dying, and I mean it's hard to keep your team alive if all your developers are going elsewhere looking for those tools and those languages which are supporting those best practices. And if you don't have modern tooling and modern chain, you're not using CI/CD and moving towards containerization or something like that, your employees are going to get bored and they're going to move on too. And it's hard to keep a team alive, especially with your legacy code that only a few people understand.
Yeah, so. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot, where it's like, don't get rid of Bob because Bob knows everything, right? Yeah. If Bob fails today, then we're screwed, right? So
the buzz factor is big on those legacy applications.
The buzz factor is huge. And usually that's the case. There's one person, two persons that are in the team that know everything, and that's not good. And I think that moving to standard methodologies, to things that are industry wide, frameworks is just so important. These are methodologies that are proven, design patterns that are proven in any language, and still people are very hesitant to adopt things that are libraries. And I don't know if it's a comfort level or a level of education, or learning something that is new that becomes a challenge. But like you said, developers don't want to work on things that are 10, 15 years old. They also need to be challenged. As developers, we're creators, right? So we want to be creating, we want to be motivated, we want to be innovative. And I think that when we work day in and day out on these legacy apps, we get very demotivated, right? So I think that there always has to be that balance, right? I think people sometimes forget that software is organic, right? That it kind of grows and it has to be nurtured and it has to be pruned, and it's a living organism, and sometimes people they just live them to die, right? And the reality is that things go to chaos; they don't go to order, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, I think this is a perfect time to play this clip from the keynote at Into the Box 2019 we held in Houston in May 2nd and May 1st and 2nd and 3rd. So let's play that right now, and then we'll recap in a minute here.
Alrighty.
We introduced this motto, I think it was last year actually, but it's modernize or die, and it's the reality. For a lot of companies that are dealing with legacy applications. The legacy problem is a problem. Some people want to ignore it, but you can't. It really gives the language a bad name. There's security issues, there are performance issues, employee issues, development issues. It sucks to work on these things, let's be real and honest. Finding developer issues, nobody wants to come work with a dragon like that one. And what's scary to me is some statistics. Thanks to TerraTech doing their State of the Union surveys, over 500 folks, over 50% do not use any type of MVC framework. Over 50% no type of object orientation, dependency injection framework. And over 50% are not doing any type of testing. And I can guarantee you that all the other 50% are probably lying. Or they're doing manual refreshes of the browser and they say, I've tested. So refresh is not valid testing. Let me clarify that. So it is a real problem, which has led to the infamous page of the CFML shaming. You don't want to say to anybody that you do cold fusion. They tell you that you're a dinosaur. What are you doing? Oh, that thing is still alive. But the reality is that there are no more excuses. We really have the tools now and beyond. We have gone above and beyond in several areas. Brad and I have the chance to go to many Java conferences, and sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, we're so light years ahead in so many things. But we just have to speak up. We need to tell our story now. Okay? So we really have to promote the concept of change now. And it's really up to us. There's no hacks, there's no shortcuts. There's just hard work. It's intensity through time here, so we can actually bring about our community forward. So we can actually finally have freedom to enjoy our community and to actually produce awesome things and what I believe are our core values for us as a community. So we can take ownership of this and say, no, we're going to bring ColdFusion forward. Because the hard reality is that these vendors, in my mind, they won't do it. So that's what we've decided to do, to take ownership, to be disciplined about this, to innovate from within, to create tools, to create solutions, and to share, right? This is what we believe that we can push forward for our community. And actually today we're gonna start new initiatives, which is pretty exciting. So today we're announcing our Modernize or Die podcasts. We've been talking about this for a while now. We really want to do this to extend the community and actually have a voice now. So it's pretty exciting that finally we're able to do this. It's going to be led by Gavin and Andrew. Okay? We're going to have two formats for our Modernize or Die edition. We're going to have a Soapbox edition and a CFML News edition. The Soapbox edition is going to be weekly. It's going to be a longer format, kind of have guests on board, kind of talk about roadmaps, talk with the Ortus team members, talk behind the scenes, what's going on. And then we're going to have the CFML News, which is going to be also weekly, but shorter snippets. It's going to be pretty much just Andrew and Gavin raving about stuff. So if you want to hear a New Zealander with a redneck, then it's awesome. It's a pair made in heaven. And actually tonight we're going to start recordings, so you can't miss them. These two guys are huge. You don't want to piss them off either. And we're going to start our recordings tonight at Happy Box. So it's pretty exciting. So thanks to Gavin for bringing this initiative forward. And finally now we can bring it forward as a reality. We're also starting a new initiative called our Open Hackathons. So we talked with Manuel, our new team member as well. And we're going to be focusing in Houston for now. And we're going to be sponsoring prizes, food and drinks, and targeting university and college students. We want to indoctrinate early as our evil plan. But we're interested in fomenting community, and we believe that if we can target college students that want prizes and want food and drink, we can help, right? So hopefully we'll start this year and start bringing forward all our ColdFusion tools to the masses. So those are our new initiatives for this year, and we're pretty excited about those.
Okay, so there's that slice from the keynote there. Again, we looked at a cool little section called Arms, trying to motivate and inspire people to step up and do their part as well. Obviously, Ortus, we are trying to do whatever we can, and this podcast is a piece of it. But you also mentioned CFML shaming in that clip, so that's kind of funny. You want to talk a little more about that and how that got started?
Yeah, actually, that kind of started 2 years ago. We introduced that slide where we have a person with a head and with a bag in his head, and it's still a reality. It's that sometimes developers are ashamed of saying that they work on CFML apps or ColdFusion apps because they feel the entire communities or other language communities are going to make fun of them because they still believe that ColdFusion is like it was 10 years ago, and that's a very truth that exists and is perception, right? And everything is about perception, and the majority of people feel that ColdFusion and CFML is still a tag-based language that existed in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that's it, right? And that's a huge misperception that we're trying to demystify, right? And CFML shaming is something that we started in saying, hey, we understand this, but this is what we're trying to do, right? And that's when Command Box was released, and now we're 5 years into this with all our tools that we have put out there. And that's why in the keynote I said, there really are no more excuses now. We have the tools. Yeah. We have everything that we need to be extremely productive, automated, and in the reality, there are many tools that we're building that are above and beyond several other languages. I mean, just with Command Box and the ability to start servers a la carte on any directory, and what we're defining as JVM containers, right, with the ability to have portability for ColdFusion, and now we're even working on other languages, right? So anything that actually runs on the JVM stack is going to be powered or could be powered by CommandBox. So this will bring about, the whole Java ecosystem in play here. I mean, we have the ability to have JRuby, JPython, Jython, right? To have Groovy, to have, Kotlin, all these things that run on top of the JVM, CommandBox has the potential to power all of them. So we are well above any other tool when it comes down to productivity for a la carte servers and JVM containers. So I think that's what we're trying to motivate in our community is like, hey, we have the tools, man. Here they are, fully documented, and go ahead and build your story. Like Pete Freitag, building that amazing Fixinator app to do security awareness and even remediation right there using our tools. That was pretty fantastic to see.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, the language shaming is real, and not just for our language too. I see a lot of stuff on Twitter about everybody saying, "Hey, enough with the shaming, guys. Doesn't matter what language you have; they're all pretty good these days." And it's true. But yeah, obviously CFML's got a bad rap. Every day there's someone on Twitter saying, "I thought it was dead," and Brad Wood speaks up, saying, "No, you should try it."
Yeah,
we got the good stuff.
Brad is like Beetlejuice, right? You say ColdFusion not only 3 times, 1 time, and he appears.
Yeah,
right?
I know, exactly.
Yeah. But it's true. The reality is that, ColdFusion was king when it came out because there were not a lot of server-side languages. Right now, we have languages as much as candy, right? And all can become very specific. So I think that now, in this age that we live on, developers need to become polyglots. Right? They need to be able to delve in multiple languages. Every language has its niceties and it has its complexities as well. Not every language is perfect. And I think that it's important for people to be, and developers to be exposed to as many languages as they can. That's the truth. We at Ortus, as you know, we foment this. We want people to know more than just CFML. I'm not really interested in just CFML. I think everybody should be interested in all languages. And then contribute and bring things from other languages into our ecosystems. But yeah, things have definitely evolved and changed, and we cannot be a one-trick pony anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to sort of end this one here. So again, this is what this podcast is going to be about. We're going to have people like Luis and other Ortus members, but also members of the community coming in and sharing their thoughts. And as new packages come out, new framework updates come out, we'll try and get them in the heads and, give you guys the deep insight and hopefully teach you a couple of things. So I think that's a great first episode. Thank you for joining me, Luis.
Thanks, Gavin. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, everyone have a good one, and we'll see you next week.
Ciao. Nos vemos.
Show notes for this episode can be found on soapbox.modernize or die.io, where you can also subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, Overcast, or your favorite podcast player, or a link to the YouTube channel for more of these videos. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.